Senator Al Franken announces that he will step down from Congress after another woman accuses him of sexual misconduct. So what happens now? We're going to ask our political panel to weigh in. And reaction continues to pour in after President Trump announced that the U.S. will formally recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. We're going to talk about the potential impact on foreign policy moving forward. Plus, it's been 76 years since the Japanese attacked the U.S. Navy base in Pearl Harbor, how President Trump plans to commemorate that tragic event. All that and much more coming up right here on America Talks Live. And welcome to this Thursday edition of America Talks Live. Today is the 76th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, the attack that brought the U.S. into World War I. Hundreds of Japanese planes made the surprise raid early in the morning. More than 2,500 Americans died in that attack in Hawaii. At least 1,000 more were injured. As of July of this year, only 5 survivors of the ships most heavily hit during that raid remain alive. That's according to USA Today. In just about 15 minutes from now, President Trump is expected to sign a proclamation for National Pearl Harbor Remembrance Day, and we're going to bring you that live. President Trump called for flags to be flown at half-staff today from 8 o'clock until sunset. So we're going to, again, we'll take you there live. Meanwhile, let's talk about today's top story. As I mentioned, Democratic Senator Al Franken is stepping down following several accusations of sexual misconduct.
Serving in the United States Senate has been the great honor of my life. I know in my heart that nothing I have done as a senator, nothing, has brought this honor on this institution. And I am confident that the Ethics Committee would agree. Nevertheless, today I am announcing that in the coming weeks, I will be resigning as a member of the United States Senate. But this decision is not about me. It's about the people of Minnesota. It's become clear that I can't both pursue the Ethics Committee process and at the same time remain an effective senator for them. Let me be clear. I may be resigning my seat, but I am not giving up my voice. I will continue to stand up for the things I believe in as a citizen and as an activist.
And that's where we want to welcome in former federal prosecutor Larry Klayman. He's also the founder of Freedom Watch. And as always, we appreciate your time, Larry. Good to see you again.
Thank you, Miranda. Good to see you.
So I want to talk about Senator Al Franken. Obviously, this is not a big surprise. We expected him to announce his resignation, even though, on his official Twitter site, they were saying, he hasn't made up his mind. But let me just ask you politically, which party stands to benefit the most from his departure?
Well, we don't know what ultimately is going to happen in the end, but this was a very cynical calculation by the Democratic Party, in my opinion. 38 Democratic senators came out to have Franken resign. Now, I think the reason for that is they're trying to set up Judge Roy Moore when he's elected to the Senate in Alabama. They're going to say, well, we took a stand against Al Franken, so you Republicans have to take a stand against Roy Moore being seated as a U.S. senator. That's to play the sex card, in effect, the woman card. But it's actually even more cynical than that, because you see, if Franken steps down, the Democratic governor of Minnesota will appoint a Democrat to fill that seat. It's a very leftist state, Minnesota. It's very likely we'll have another Democrat. If Moore does not succeed, if they're going to use this in the next week or so against him, if he doesn't get elected, even if he's not seated, they hope to get a Democratic senator down there as well, Mr. Jones, Doug Jones. So it's very calculated. It has little to do with sexual harassment, in my opinion, in terms of the Democrats. because they're a party which is much more prevalent in that regard than even the Republicans. But it's something that was a cynical political calculation. And interestingly enough, Franken didn't resign today. He could have resigned. He said, I'm going to do it in coming weeks. So I think he's leaving the door open that he'll be rehabilitated in some way. And
what he said there. I just want to get your thoughts on that, because he was, saying basically that, as you know, he was pushing for an ethics committee investigation, and he seemed to allude to the fact in his comments that he would be found innocent, but saying that he was doing this for the people.
That's easy to say if you're not. Several allegations with of the sexual harassment. I don't think he would have caved in. I mean, I've met the guy. He's extremely arrogant. He's nasty. He's not even funny. And he's probably not liked by his other Democrat senators on top of everything else. But I don't think he's the type that would resign if he didn't think that if he went through a Senate investigation in the Ethics Committee, that he wouldn't have a hard time.
Well, before we move on, I kind of want to go back to what we were talking about there, and you brought it up, and I was going to ask you this because it's been highly anticipated, at least when it comes to the midterm elections. So you're saying that this was more politically motivated than it was morally motivated. So let me ask you this. Politically, is that even a wise political strategy for Democrats to use, or could this possibly backfire on the party?
No, I don't think it's going to backfire, but it's not going to help them at all, because people have seen the Democrats in the past. They've seen how they ran interference for Bill Clinton. I represented nearly all the women who were sexually harassed, raped, and who had illicit affairs with Bill Clinton, and Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton tried to destroy them. So this is hypocritical on their part. And I think we're in a different age. Ironically, Bill Clinton paved the way for people getting elected who had these kinds of issues. After Bill Clinton, everything's possible. You can see that. And President Trump's not going to back down, and the Republican Party, I don't think at this point, can back down, although they might like to. They lack a lot of courage in many respects. I don't think it'll make a difference. People see the media, not, of course, Newsmax and conservative outlets like that, but they see the leftist media as trying to destroy conservative and libertarian politicians, and they're reacting to it. I do believe that Chief Justice Roy Moore will win overwhelmingly in Alabama, and it's going to be a reaction as much of anything else to the leftist media, which has become so vicious.
Larry, I want to shift gears now and talk a little bit about Christopher Wray. The director of the FBI has been testifying today in front of the House Judicial Committee. Today, he defended the agency. As you know, the president has come under fire for basically saying that the Bureau is in tatters, although I would say he was probably more referring to when James Comey was running that agency. But nonetheless, Wray was defending the agency, calling the people that work there decent people committed to the highest principles of integrity and respect. And he also was asked questions about Robert Mueller's Russia probe. And he said it's not a witch hunt. But some Republicans are seeming to, more and more of them, are seeming to disagree, and asked Wray if he thought that the investigation was politically motivated. Here's some of that.
In light of the perception by members of the public that there are individuals that are investigating President Trump, and they have an agenda, an unfair agenda in their investigation.
I think the fundamental underlying principle of your point is one that you and I share, which is that investigations need to be conducted in a way that political bias doesn't taint.
Now, of course, this comes after the White House said that it's concerned about bias in this ongoing Russia probe. Now, Judicial Watch, an organization that you helped find, is revealing that a top prosecutor for Special Counsel Robert Mueller's team sent Sally Yates an email praising her after she refused to defend the president's travel ban. Now, according to records, again, obtained by Judicial Watch, Andrew Weissman sent the message to the former acting attorney general after she told the Justice Department not to enforce the president's order banning people from 7 predominantly Muslim countries. Now, according to Judicial Watch, Wiseman wrote in the email, "I'm so proud. I'm in awe. Thank you so much. All my deepest respects." That message was among several hundred DOJ documents released by, again, Judicial Watch, including several others that also praised Yates for her actions. Then there was that report, and this actually came up, and there was one question in particular that a lot of Republicans seem to be asking Wray in particular, and that was the conduct of a senior agent who's reportedly under investigation by the Inspector General for the Justice Department for sending anti-Trump messages while working under Robert Mueller. So my question to you is, were these legitimate questions, and did Wray answer them effectively?
Well, the answer is no, Wray did not answer them effectively. He's establishment. And of course, he's trying to protect the line agents. And there are good line agents at the FBI. I was a Justice Department prosecutor and defense lawyer. I work with them. There are good people there. But the higher ups, the president is right, are perverting the role of the FBI. And Wray is not a very strong FBI director. He's new. He looks kind of like a kid, frankly, when he testifies. He was very nervous there. He doesn't have the gravitas. But let me tell you, when I founded Judicial Watch, and also conceived of it, of course, way back when, it wasn't just to get documents. It was to bring hard-hitting lawsuits. And basically, at Freedom Watch, I do what Judicial Watch used to do right now. Getting documents is great, and I commend that. But 3 months ago, I filed a request, a complaint, for an investigation by the Office of Professional Responsibility and the Inspector General of the Justice Department into the illegal grand jury leaks of Robert Mueller, who's smearing everybody even before indictments or trials, and also the conflicts of interest because his prosecutors are largely pro-Clinton prosecutors and very partisan, as we now know with the document that my former group obtained. Well, nothing happened. They wouldn't even acknowledge that. So therefore, I filed a court suit about a week ago. It's in front of Judge Amy Berman Jackson, who is very partisan as well. I've moved to disqualify her as of yesterday and get another judge. But we're taking proactive actions. It's not enough just to get documents, Miranda. Somebody's got to do something. On Capitol Hill, they come on these shows, Fox News, whatever, and they pound their chest and get a lot of support for their next reelection, but nothing ever happens. And that's why I have this lawsuit. I hope people will go to freedomwatchusa.org and support that, sign our petition and support us, because we are actually in court trying to force an investigation and trying to force the removal of Robert Mueller, who is highly corrupt.
Larry Klayman, always good to have you. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. God bless, Miranda.